Yo, what's up guys, it's Cozy, and today I have another guide for you. This time we are going to take a look at the sibling of Lynette, a member of the House of Hearth and a great magician, you all know her, Lynette. This video is a reaction to the comments I received on my Spiral Abyss video, and as such the beginning of a series where we take a look at different Forza characters that are very good when it comes to fulfilling different roles in your team compositions. And the first role we are going to take a look at is that of an Anemo support character. Anemo characters find their place in almost any team composition due to their insane potential when it comes to increasing your damage, as well as their ability to quad control your enemies. And if you don't have characters like Kazo or Venti, then Lynette is a good character to build, not to mention that we all got her for free during the release of 4.0.
Is it time for a magic show?
So, without further ado, let us take a look at everyone's second favorite magician, Lynette. First we have her talents. Her elemental skill is called Enigmatic Feint and is more or less a copy of Yeland's elemental skill. You get a massive speed boost and at the end of it you attack a nearby opponent using Enigma's Thrust. You can also tap her elemental skill to skip the entire speed boost aspect and simply attack a nearby opponent. Her elemental burst is very similar to Lynette's Grim Malkin Head. You summon a Bogglecat box which taunts nearby opponents and has the ability to absorb the first element it comes into contact with. After that it will deal damage at set intervals to opponents based on the absorbed element. When it comes to her normal attack, it is a simple normal attack like any other. In the case of Lynette, I don't really recommend leveling her normal attack because you barely use it. One thing to point out in the case of Lynette is that she has the ability to deal OCR damage with her elemental skill. OCR damage is a new mechanic in the game which so far does not really have that much of an impact. There are specific enemies, like the Icewind Suit or the Breacher Primus enemies, where you can deactivate their shields by doing OCR damage. But other than that, there hasn't really been much use for it so far. Let us see if it becomes handy in the Spiral Abyss once that resets. Next, we have her passive. Her first passive, Sophisticated Synergy, will increase the attack of your entire group based on the number of different elements you have in your party. This effect works for 10 seconds whenever you activate her elemental burst. Her second passive is called Props Positively Prepped. This one basically increases the damage of Lynette's elemental burst by 15% whenever it absorbs an element. Keep in mind though that each elemental burst can only absorb one element, so make sure that your opponents are affected by either Hydro, Cryo, Electro or Pyro when you use her elemental burst. The other elements, so Geo, Dendro and Anemo, don't work because they can't be absorbed by her elemental burst. When it comes to her constellations, the more you have, the better she becomes. But there are a few that outshine the others. Her Constellation 1 enables her to quad control your opponents. When her elemental skill hits an enemy, it will spawn a vortex that pulls them in. This one is very similar to Kazuha's elemental skill. Her Constellation 2 increases the damage of her elemental burst, just like Constellation 5. Her Constellation 3 increases the damage of your elemental skill, while Constellation 4 gives you 1 extra charge of her elemental skill. And finally, Constellation 6 will increase the Anemo damage Lynette does whenever she hits opponents with her elemental skill. In my opinion, the constellation that shines the most here is Constellation 1. This one will give you the ability to quad control opponents, which is what we want to see from Anemo characters, especially if you plan to use them as support characters.
Tea is ready. Now it's time for a short rest.
Alright, with her talents out of the way, let us now talk about artifacts. And to be honest, there's not a whole lot to say here. We equip the same set that we equip on any other support Anemo character, the Viridescent Venerer set. This set basically increases the damage of your party by reducing the resistance of your opponents to the element that was infused in your swirl. So if you attack an opponent that is affected by Electro with Lynette's elemental skill or elemental burst, that opponent will take more Electro damage. The same applies to Pyro, Hydro and so on. It does not work for Geo and Dendro though, so keep that in mind. When it comes to the stats, keep in mind that Lynette is not there to be your main DPS, so you're fine if you more or less equip whatever you have in order to get the 4-piece bonus going. The only thing you want to have is 200% or more energy recharge in order to pop her elemental burst more often. If you want to play her as a main DPS, or if you simply want to boost her damage, then attack is generally speaking your best friend. There are some scenarios, like in an international team, where elemental mastery becomes better because their team is all about elemental reactions, but other than that it is the same stat distribution as usual: attack, crit chance and crit damage. When it comes to weapons, I would personally advise you to use a Sacrificial Sword or any other sword that provides energy recharge. This makes it much easier to get to 200% energy recharge, and if you already have 200% without using the sword, then just equip whatever sword you have that provides attack. By now you can see that the gearing aspect for an Anemo support character is fairly simple. All you want is a Viridescent Venerer 4-piece and 200% energy recharge. Of course that changes for characters like Kazuha, but for Lynette it is more than enough. Once you have those, Lynette is good to go and can be used in almost any team composition.
Pleased to make your acquaintance. I am Linny's magic assistant.
Speaking of team composition, let me give you a few examples you could go for yourself. First we have a mono pyro team in the form of Linny as our main DPS, Jungling and Lynette as our sub DPS, and Bennett as our healer. In this case, Lynette swirls a pyro element with the Viridescent Venerer set in order to increase your pyro damage. Next up we have a mono hydro team. The basic principle here is the same. We have only hydro characters in our team in the form of Yelan, Sheld and Kokomi, so that you can only swirl the hydro element, which in turn increases your hydro damage. And finally we have a rather unique composition in the form of Nahida and Yae Miko. Lynette is there to swirl the electro element, while Kuki is there for the elemental resonance.
Rainy days are perfect for spacing out.
So, is Lynette a good character? Well, in itself she definitely is. She provides a stat buff to your entire team, she can reduce your opponent's resistances by using the Viridescent Venerer set, she has a taunt, and she makes open world exploration easier. She also has a whole OCR damage aspect that might be important in the future, not to mention that you all got her for free during the launch of 4.0. But is she better than any of the other support characters in the game? Well, not really. Zuko's outshines her, and Kazuha and Venti are outright broken. But not everyone might have those three characters, and if you are one of those people, then Lynette is definitely a good option for you. The damage increase she will provide is massive and should not be underestimated. With that, we are at the end of the video. If the guide was helpful, then let me know with the hashtag Lynette in the comments, or simply leave a like or sub. Other than that, have a great day or night wherever you live. Bye bye.
Entering standby mode. I hope nobody disturbs me.